Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today, man, we have some breaking news, okay? YouTube screwed up. This has never happened before in history, first time this has ever went down. Cannot believe we are here making a video talking about yet another YouTube flub. Oh wait, that never happened, so this is the first time, right? We've never gone through this before. Yeah, I wanted to start this video off with a little bit of a jokey joke because obviously, this is like the 400th video probably criticizing YouTube for something. And trust me, it gets old. It really does. It gets old every single time that YouTube decides to screw something up, and we have to come here and talk about it and call this company out, especially when it's something like this. It's so easy to not screw up. Before we even get into the video, I want you guys to consider this. In order for YouTube to not screw up, guess what they had to do? Literally insert someone's video segment to an event that was already scheduled to be inserted into the event. It's the equivalent of dragging and dropping a clip in a timeline in Premiere Pro. That's all YouTube had to do in order to not screw up and get the entire community against them. But of course, that was too much to ask of YouTube. You can't ask them to do the right thing and treat their community like actual people. That's ridiculous, Optimus. Why would you even suggest something like that? So, I don't know if you guys heard about well, there's really two things I kind of want to talk about, two different trends that I kind of want to talk about here. First and foremost, the YouTube Game On event. Now, this was a pretty heavily marketed event that YouTube was doing in collaboration with the community. So essentially, they were going to have a whole bunch of creators do a bunch of gaming segments for this big long event that YouTube was doing, right? And this was actually a cool event because with these creators, the people in the comments could actually influence what was happening in the event. So I don't know, for instance, if let's say Optimus is in the video, right, and he's playing Spider-Man, and you have an option between saving somebody from a group of thugs and, I don't know, flying through the streets on webs. From what I understand, like, the audience through the comments section could choose which one would happen, and it would, like, affect the outcome of the video. So it's like an interactive experience for the audience. It's a really good way for these creators to not get their name out there because most of them are already established in the first place, but of course expand to new audiences and be part of something pretty huge. But unfortunately, that was ruined for a pretty prominent creator here on YouTube for a pretty stupid reason. So I don't know if you guys watched my video a few days ago at this point talking about the CoryxKenshin drama. If you haven't seen that video, make sure to go check that out. But essentially, he calls out YouTube for favoritism and potentially racism when it comes to reviewing appeals and how they treat creators in general on the platform, right? And I thought it was a pretty decent video. I reacted to it, I responded to it, and talked about it, of course. And one of the prominent points that CoryxKenshin made in his video was that he was basically hit with an age restriction for a piece of content. Markiplier uploaded the same exact thing and didn't get age restricted. And there was a bunch of drama surrounding that, right? Well, of course, Markiplier, I think did the right thing personally in this situation. I think his solution here was pretty good. So, Markiplier actually decided to do something that most creators wouldn't do. Like, a lot of creators probably would have taken the CoryxKenshin point as, like, kind of slamming them or, like, coming after them when that wasn't the intention, right? Markiplier was more or less used as the ends to justify the means in a way, and he didn't seem to be too particularly offended because he actually stood up for CoryxKenshin and the rest of the community asking questions by uploading a video called YouTube Try Not to Get Age Restricted Challenge, right? So this is an almost 40-minute video where he plays some pretty risque games and does some pretty risque stuff. Like, he's pretty much playing porn games, if we're being honest. At the very minimum, like, it should have probably been age restricted with everything that happened in the video, and that was the point, right? He wanted to see just how far he could push the limits. Well, as it stood for hours on YouTube, racking up millions of views, YouTube did not age restrict the video, which kind of proved CoryxKenshin's point in a way, right? Because his point was that people like Markiplier get special treatment from YouTube, and he finds it unfair. Markiplier essentially proves that YouTube has special privileges, or at the bare minimum doesn't have a system that equally applies the rules. And so what do you think YouTube does, guys? Like, what do you honestly think YouTube does? Keep in mind, Markiplier is scheduled to be in the Game On event. They used him extensively in the marketing for this, event and whatnot. Do you think they, finally just admitted they were in the wrong, reversed all of their decisions that led to the controversy, and finally solved the issue? B, they went out for hamburgers and hot dogs at lunch and had a couple smooches around a Coca-Cola at a restaurant. I don't know, it doesn't make sense, but it's another option. Or C, do you think they removed Markiplier from the heavily marketed event that he was involved in, the Game On event, and basically gave no explanation why. Yeah, of course, it was option C. So this was about a 2-minute segment in the video that Markiplier had made basically for this event, and YouTube completely cut it. And from the way it seems, not only did they not notify Markiplier that they were going to be cutting his content, but they didn't really inform any of his fans or anyone else that the content was going to be cut. They kind of just got people's hopes up that Markiplier was going to be in this event and then just randomly cut his footage, most likely because of the age-restricted challenge video that he made. So basically, YouTube has kind of set this this expectation, I'll say, that if you speak out against the company, it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, it doesn't matter what influence you have on the platform, if you speak out against YouTube and you actually go through the effort to prove them wrong, they will legitimately take action against you. Now let's be honest, did Markiplier need the exposition or whatever from that piece of content in that whole event? No, he has 33.5 million subscribers, but that isn't the point being made here. It doesn't matter how badly he needed the exposure or anything. It's the principle of what YouTube did, not letting a creator know that they were removing their segment from a video, basically out of spite for proving that they have favorites on their platform, and just kind of swept it under the rug like it wasn't a big deal or like it wasn't that big of an issue, which personally I take a pretty big issue with. And you might be like, oh, well, Optimus, why do you care, man? It's not your content. Well, because I care about the YouTube community. I think other creators also should have their time to shine. They should have their time to be able to participate in these kinds of events to help bring the community together. These are the kinds of things that the community wants. Who wouldn't want to be part of a massive YouTube collaboration that's been heavily marketed by the platform? I'm pretty sure Markiplier probably wanted to be part of it, considering he made a piece of content for it that got cut. Yeah. YouTube cut it. Sure glad Lixian, Marcus, Rachel, Nervely, and I busted our asses to get the segment ready for the big Game On event just for it to be cut without warning. Fuck that, I'll put it on my channel tomorrow. And that he did. He did end up releasing the cut that was supposed to be in the YouTube Game On event to his YouTube channel. Already has millions of views, go figure. But it's just mind-blowing that YouTube screws up so badly, like so consistently. It feels like, especially in a situation like this, the answer's right there, man. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that this wasn't the right move. I feel like if you had like 4 able-bodied, like not morons, basically, come together and talk about this, they would have come to the conclusion that cutting his piece of the content was fucking stupid. And the reason behind it couldn't be more transparent. Do you think it's a coincidence that YouTube only cut his segment of the video after he called them out in this fashion? And keep in mind, you know, a big thing a lot of us have always thought is like, if you're a big YouTuber like this, you get away with calling out YouTube. Those are the people that need to use their platform to call out YouTube because they're the ones who don't face consequences. But apparently that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, once again, this is a guy with 33.5 million subscribers. He has more subscribers than some countries have people altogether. You would think if anyone, YouTube would want to listen to this guy, right? But apparently not, folks, and it's because Markiplier stood up for the YouTube community, and he did the right thing. He stood up for people who have been calling this issue out and talking about it. So honestly, I just want to say I really appreciate Markiplier putting himself on the line like this and, you know, risking his participation in this event, more or less to prove a point that people like CoryxKenshin have been calling out on the platform. A lot of YouTubers would have just stayed silent about it, you know, brushed it off their shoulder and just kept marching forward like it never happened, you know? And Markiplier actively didn't do that, so I do think he deserves to be commended a little bit for that, because it takes a little bit of cojones to call out YouTube like that, you know? Especially now that we apparently know the risks of doing so. So YouTube, I know you're probably not watching my video, of course, because I call you guys out all the time and I constantly call out things on the platform, but you know, I don't understand how you guys constantly fail. Really. Like, you have the backing of one of the largest companies on the planet, you have infinite money to play with, you have billions of monthly users. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that the platform goes in the direction that it goes in simply because of YouTube's incompetence. Like, you would think at some point they would address this in the hiring phase or like in the training phase, because it's clearly an issue on the platform, right? You would think that employees would somewhat get trained or like be hired knowing these kinds of like guidelines and stuff, so they don't have problems like this where one creator appears to be favored over the other. But they can't get that right. and then they can't get their response to the controversy right. Like, I don't understand. YouTube just loves messing up, man. Like if these people had a bowl of fuck-up-os for breakfast, they'd be munching them down like the Cookie Monster at the bakery, you know? Like, I have never seen a company self-sabotage so badly. Like, YouTube shows all the time that they just don't give a fuck about their community, and I just, it's insane to me. Like, they genuinely try to push, like, this narrative that they care and that they're here to help creators and they're gonna figure it all out for us, but then, you know, it just turns into, yeah, this shit. Like, this is the response, you know? After years of people complaining about the issues on the platform, these are the kinds of responses that we get. I don't know, man. Like, none of it really makes sense. There's nothing about this that makes any sense, right? The fact that Markiplier seems to have some sort of, like, privilege over other creators, even though it's not really his fault, doesn't really make sense. YouTube responding in this way doesn't make sense. And of course, now that people are calling YouTube out for this again, because, I mean, like in this video here, basically YouTube is dead silent. They're radio silent. You're not going to hear a response on this one, man. You're just going to have to wait till the next controversy, right? So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about the Markiplier and Game On situation, and signing out.